critical question we ask is, what are the effects of this split? What are the effects of the power vacuums in ODM to the survival of ODM itself? When ODM was formed in the year 2006, it was born out of the opposition of the Bomas draft, the constitution draft that was brought about by Amos Wako then, proposing a new constitution for the country. And ODM, led by Raila Odinga, joined by Uhuru Kenyatta, joined by William Ruto, was the faction that opposed that draft until it was defeated, to the extent that the then president, Mwai Kibaki, dissolved government out of disappointment.
Fellow Kenyans, following the results of the referendum, it has become necessary for me, as the President of the Republic, to reorganize my government to make it more cohesive and better able to serve the people of Kenya. Accordingly, in accordance with the powers conferred upon me under the Constitution of Kenya, I have directed that the offices of all ministers and all assistant ministers become vacant. Consequently, the occupants of the said offices cease to hold their respective offices with the immediate effect.
Because people who were in government were actually supporting the failure of the referendum push then. The party's ideals were founded on bringing accountability to government, whether within government or outside government, and to provide the necessary checks and balances to the democratic space of the nation. Its leader and one of the founding members, Raila Amolo Odinga, had been a victim of bad governance, had been a victim of bad politics, had been a victim of the one-party rule in the country, and he would not envision any situation where any government, be he part of it or be he out of it, that would lead the nation back to the dark days like the nation had experienced under the Moi regime, where people were tortured for their political views, where people were abducted for their political views, where people were basically even killed for their political views. He would not envision that. And there was born the ODM party. And it became its identity. In 2007, it bashed the doors of political hallways until the doors were opened and they were given half the government.
Mimi, Raila Amolo Odinga, naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya na kuitumikia kwa moyo wangu wote, na kwamba nitahifadhi.
In 2013, they fought tooth and nail to take over government and bring the requisite changes they wanted visited upon the country in order to benefit the mwananchi. But even though they failed in that, Raila Amolo Odinga ensured that he knocked on the gates of the halls of power again and again until His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta opened. And the same thing happened after the Gen Z demonstrations demanding for accountability. The identity of the party is at risk while these divisions occur. The identity of the party, the DNA of the party, is to bring the checks and balances that Mwananchi needs for a democracy to run efficiently and for the nation to succeed at its politics, because siasa mbaya maisha mbaya, and to ensure that anyone who wants to run has a chance to do so without intimidation and without a lot of obstacles being put before them, because the law allows them to do so. The freedom to run for any seat as long as they are qualified. These factions risk breaking that very identity of the ODM party. Kenyan politics are tribal. And the Luhya community is one of the communities that have majority of the votes in this country. And Sifuna, the immediate former SG of the party, comes from that community. If the region he comes from decides to tribally think and say that their son has been kicked out and perceive as if they are being sidelined by the other part of ODM, it risks bringing regional factions within ODM.
Kuna mchezo ambaye inaendelea kwa sababu kijana wetu Sifuna anaingiliwa sana na mnafikiria sisi tutalala. Wakati hii it's not going to be business as usual. Luya power! Power! Luya power! Power!
Yule katibu mkuu wa chama cha ODM Sifuna ni kijana yetu hapa. Kijana yetu ya Bungoma. Mimi nilisema nikiwa kule Kakamega kama baba hako hai kwamba mkifukuza Sifuna hata mimi nitaenda.
Which will eventually lead to a split. The other day at the ODM celebrations at 20 years, we saw members of the ODM party from the coastal region saying, if we are not welcomed in the party, if we are not given the party leadership position, we will form our own coastal party.
Sisi kama wapwani hatujawahi kumwacha baba hata siku moja. Miaka 20 yote tumekuwa kwenye chungwa.
Lazima Hassan Ali Joho aweze kuheshimika. Yule atakayemheshimu Hassan Joho na sisi tutamheshimu. Ambaye atamchezea na sisi pia hatuna haja.
And who knows? Maybe even a party for the coastal region is in the works. So all these factions, all these divisions risk bringing ODM party to tatters along regional lines and along ethnical lines. Because you read some of the comments online on Twitter and other platforms, you find out people saying that now ODM is a Luo Nyanza party. And that kills the DNA of the party. That destroys the party as founded. And it destroys the spirit of the formation of the party. You see, the ODM party has survived many storms. At one point, William Samoei Ruto, as I have mentioned earlier, walked out with all the members of parliament of the ODM party from the Rift Valley region and formed their own party, URP. ODM survived that storm. ODM survived the Ababu Namwamba storm. ODM survived the claims of nomination certificate rigging and direct nomination certificates being handed to Baba's favorites. ODM survived even losing major elections and still held strong. But this particular storm, the big question is, will ODM survive it? Will ODM survive the ouster of Edwin Sifuna?
Constituted organs, having deliberated on matters relating to the conduct of the Secretary General, Senator Edwin Sifuna, the NEC resolved to remove him from office with immediate effect in accordance with the party constitution and applicable laws.
Will ODM survive the onslaught on the old guard from the younger Turks who are energetic, who are better mobilizers, who know the inner workings of metropolitan cities, hosting people from all communities? Will ODM survive this storm? Because this storm is peculiar, as the man who was the glue to the party is no longer there.
The king is dead, but long live the crown. Joey! 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 Joey!
As the man who always ensured that they had the democracy to speak their mind in the party.
Kama Sifuna ameongea, hakuna haki ya kuongea.
And had the power to say their political ideology without being kicked out of the party, and to ensure that when the party decides, those decisions will be implemented regardless of personal opinions of the persons in the party, yet still respecting democracy within the party. But can ODM survive? Because that man, Raila Amolo Odinga was not just any party leader, was not just any party member. He has steered ODM for 20 years, 2 decades. A child who was born then is almost completing college. When other parties died, when other parties entered into coalitions and died, a political death, he stood firm. He's kept gaining members of parliament. He's kept electing governors. He's kept the influence of its regions and its strongholds. But can they survive without that man who stood at the political ship bridge of ODM and steered the ship away from storms, negotiated corners within the storms, and ensured that the ship remained stable for those aboard, and that they succeeded even in the middle of challenges and even in the middle of the storms? Can ODM find a solution, or will it split? Can ODM survive the ouster of Edwin Sifuna, or will they find a middle ground? Are we about to see Oburu Odinga steering the party into a cohesive and more integrated democratic party and making it stronger than the brother left it? Or are we about to see the old guard versus the young attacks split the party into different factions, into regional factions? Or maybe, just maybe, the death of Raila Amolo Odinga could be the beginning of the end of ODM. That remains to be seen. And that is my unfiltered insight.
The king is dead, but long live the crown. Joey! Joey!